Does the world really need another Solo Stove review? No, it doesn't, so it's not really going to be a review. Everything's very wet out here. Been raining for days. I'm probably going to burn my tongue. Do you need to get a gift for a backpacker, bushcrafter, outdoors person who already has too much gear and are looking for something a little unique, a little bit of a novelty? Well, this Solo Stove might be the answer. Comes in a stuff sack. You guys don't need to see it. It's a generic stuff sack. Basically, it goes like that. Put the wood in there, make a little fire. The wood burns, and then the gases get burned again. It's a gasification system. Works quite efficiently. Since I've been using it while day hiking for lunch or tea or cocoa, what have you, I've really been wondering if it makes a good backpacking system. The pros are that the fuel is available everywhere. But when I really think about that, I think, why bother bringing the Solo Stove, right? I mean, if you're going to make a fire, you can make a fire without it. Of course, this is supposedly a little more efficient than just a ground fire, but still. The other good thing is you can definitely pump out the BTUs at a level that's high enough and sustainable enough to melt snow. The only other stove system I have that's good for winter camping where you're melting snow for water would be my MSR Whisper Light. That thing's like a jet engine, so that'll definitely melt some snow. Downsides are it's very time consuming to even boil water on this, much less cook on it, because you have to gather all the fuel, you got to start the fire, you got to maintain the fire, and then you got to allow it to all cool down and then clean it up. And speaking of cleaning it up, it's kind of a dirty system, right? You're going to have soot all over your pot, hands will get dirty, depending on how you store it, the pack will get dirty itself. And yeah, it's not the end of the world, but something to consider. The other thing is weight, right? Rough numbers, this thing's about 9 ounces. It's roughly the same amount of weight as a Fancy Feast stove and 8 ounces of fuel. Now, because you're going to average your daily weight over the course of the trip, you could actually carry 2 things of fuel, get you well into 2 weeks, and have an average daily weight the same as the 9 ounces for the Solo Stove. The other benefit to the alcohol stove is that it's very clean burning. There's really no soot or anything like that. And it's very little setup time, right? Pour the fuel in, light it, boom, you're done. It's a much shorter process, even though the boil times are, roughly the same. Also in the same relative weight class, 4-ounce fuel canister and a pocket rocket. You're going to be able to get over a week with the small canister. Besides being clean and quick, the cartridge stove allows you to have adjustable amount of heat. You could simmer, you could go full bore if you need a boil in a hurry. You got to kind of weigh it all out, but I guess in the end, for me, the Solo Stove, although it works just like it's supposed to, it's a novelty, especially where I live, where ground fires, and this would be considered a ground fire by most rangers that you're likely to run across, are simply not allowed, right? So you either have to use it on private property or, and I'm not suggesting that you break the law, but you have to be a little stealthy, a little discreet, the same way you would when you stealth camp. So yeah, I like it a lot. I'm going to continue to use it, but I'm not sure if it's the best system. You really got to weigh things out. I know there's a lot of bushcrafters that seem to love this and have even more love for the original Bush Buddy that this thing's modeled after. By the way, there's a debate over whether this is an ethical choice, being that this is kind of a clone of a Bush Buddy. But the Bush Buddy is actually not an original stove either. That's a clone of something else that was made long ago in Europe. So I think value-wise, you're just going to have to make a choice and either save a little money or go with the cottage guy. Speaking of price, these things hover around $70 street. If you're careful and patient, you can get a 30% off coupon from REI. It makes this thing relatively affordable. Speaking of price, that's kind of the other downside, right? You could buy a lot of heat in the yellow bottle to go with your free homemade stove before you approach the cost of that thing. And although this is a legit MSR pocket rocket, fuel canisters are an ongoing cost, of course, but for way less than $10 you can get a cheap MSR pocket rocket knockoff. So expense-wise, if you're looking to get into a stove, there's definitely cheaper options than the Solo Stove. All things to consider. So it's not really a review, just my thoughts on whether or not it's the right choice for me and the right choice for you, which you're going to have to make that decision, of course. Okay, before I go, I'm going to put this thing back in the stuff sack just for a point of reference, in case anybody's interested. It nests perfectly in a Musa cup, 12 centimeter. And it nests perfectly in a T.H.Cone's 1100 millimeter pot. Did I say millimeter? Obviously milliliters. What can I say? I'm an American. I don't use the metric system enough to realize what I'm saying. All right, so 1100 milliliter pot from T.H.Cone's, right? Nest perfect. This setup, while it's nesting like this, will fit perfectly in the exterior side pocket of my MAP 3500. Probably fit anywhere where you could get a canteen. So, you know, if you have a tight Nalgene bottle fit, this is probably a little too big, but if you have like a looser side pocket, definitely go in there. Alright guys, thanks for watching.